She thought she was lucky, hired by one of Lagos' richest families to work in their mansion. No questions asked, no family contact, no way out. But the house was too clean, too quiet, and the meat they ate, too strange. When she found what was floating in the sink, she realized she hadn't been hired to work. She'd been lured to disappear. The rain had just stopped when Kemi Ajayi stepped out of the tinted car into the long, silent driveway of the Adebami mansion in Ikoyi. She was only 19, her slippers soaked from the puddles, her heart pounding with excitement. She had never seen a house this big. Glass walls, cream stucco, electric gate, and roses in perfect rows. A woman stepped out before she could knock. Mrs. Remy Adebami, tall, composed, dressed in a flowing white caftan, and pearl earrings that didn't move even in the breeze. "You'll clean, cook, and stay inside." "We don't like noise," she said, voice smooth and cold. Kemi nodded quickly. "Yes, ma." Inside, the house was silent, too silent. The walls gleamed, the floors shimmered, and not a single fly buzzed. There was no smell of spices, no sign of lived-in chaos. It felt like a museum someone dared not disturb. She met the driver, Chuka, who barely acknowledged her, and the elderly gatesman, Baba Sei, who only muttered, "Keep your head down and do your job." Kemi unpacked slowly in a tiny room near the back kitchen. No phone service, no windows that open, no working TV. At dinner, she served a strange, pale meat sliced into cubes. Madam called it imported pork from Europe. But it smelled off-sweet, almost metallic. That night, Kemi lay on her thin mattress, staring at the ceiling fan spinning too slowly. A sinking feeling filled her chest. She had come to Lagos looking for a better life. But something about this house didn't feel like life at all. On her second morning at the Adebami mansion, Kemi woke to silence so heavy it felt unnatural. No neighborhood children playing, no passing cars, just the soft hum of hidden air conditioning. She tiptoed into the kitchen to begin breakfast. Madame Remy appeared behind her, dressed in another spotless white outfit, arms crossed. "Don't cook anything unless I tell you," she said calmly. "Our food is special. It's prepared separately." Kemi blinked. "Yes, ma. And no leaving the compound, ever." The rules came fast. No outside calls, no visitors, no asking questions. The mansion was wrapped in quiet control. Even Chuka the driver avoided eye contact. And Baba Sei the gatesman only opened the gate for approved cars with black tinted windows. No deliveries came directly to the door. All groceries were dropped at the gate, and only Madam collected the special meat herself. At dinner, the meat reappeared, soft pink and oddly uniform. It didn't smell like goat or cow. Madam insisted it was imported wild game. Kemi nodded but didn't eat. Later that night, she explored the house quietly. The upstairs was locked. One door had 5 latches and no knob. Another room smelled like bleach and raw iron. She returned to her room, unsettled. The Adebamis never raised their voices. They never laughed. The luxury was real, but it felt like the glossed-over surface of something rotten. And worst of all, Kemi realized she hadn't heard a single bird since she arrived. 3 days in, and Kemi had learned to move quietly, speak less, and watch everything. Chief Tayo Adebami was barely seen. He left early, returned late, and when he was home, he stayed behind closed doors in the upstairs study. Kemi had never heard him laugh or even speak above a murmur. He only ever said one thing to her: "Make sure the knives stay clean." The fridge in the private pantry was padlocked. Every morning, Madam would unlock it, take out shrink-wrapped meat, and hand it to Kemi to rinse and slice, always under her supervision. It looked like pork. Pale, boneless, but inconsistent. The marbling was wrong, the scent metallic, almost sterile. "Don't think too hard," Madam said once, her smile tight. "Eat with your eyes, not your nose." Babasei avoided the kitchen entirely. When Kemi once offered him a plate of stew, he recoiled and said, "I don't eat what lives in that house." She chuckled nervously, but he didn't smile back. At night, Kemi heard strange sounds, soft thuds like dragging. Once a loud clang, followed by the unmistakable sound of a door locking. But by morning, everything was spotless again. On the fourth day, while cleaning the back hallway, Kemi noticed a mark on the tiled floor, a single smear of dried blood quickly mopped over but not fully gone. She crouched to touch it, then glanced down the corridor. Cameras in every corner, blinking red. She was being watched. Nothing made sense. The meat, the rules, the way everyone acted like they were afraid of waking something up. Something was off. Deeply, dangerously off. And for the first time, Kemi realized this wasn't just a strange household. This was a trap. It was early evening when Kemi was called into the kitchen. Madame Remy handed her a sealed black bag from the special fridge. "Slice this carefully," she said, then left without another word. Kemi waited until the door closed behind her. Alone now, she peeled the plastic open. At first it looked like the usual strange meat. Pink, slippery, cold. But as she turned a chunk over into the sink, it slipped from her hand, and that's when she saw it. A human finger, still intact, pale and swollen. A nail painted a dull rose color. Not a mistake. Not a trick of the light. A woman's finger. Kemi backed away, bile rising in her throat. She stared, frozen, eyes locked on the impossible truth. She had been cooking this. She had served this. She almost screamed, but something stopped her. Instinct. A voice in her head saying, "If you scream, you die." She quickly scooped the meat back into the bag, wrapped it tight, and cleaned the sink with shaking hands. Her chest was pounding, her vision blurred. She needed to get out, now. But the compound gate was locked. The front door had biometric access. Her phone, confiscated on the first day. She had no exit, no voice, no ally. That night, Kemi didn't sleep. Every sound made her flinch. She stuffed a kitchen knife under her mattress, though she knew it would do little if things got worse. The next morning, Madame acted like nothing had happened. She smiled, asked for pap, hummed while brushing her hair. Kemi kept her eyes down. But something inside her had changed. She wasn't confused anymore. She was terrified. And now, she knew what was at stake. Her life. Kemi moved through the mansion like a ghost. Quiet, careful, watching everything. She now understood the truth, but survival meant pretending she didn't. She smiled when spoken to, cleaned with precision, and never touched the meat again. Every moment was a performance. Madame Remy grew more relaxed, even affectionate. "You're better than the last girl," she said one morning, sipping Zobo. She was too curious. Kemi forced a smile, her stomach twisting. That afternoon, she tried the front door, fingerprint locked. Later, she tested the back gate. Babasei caught her. "I just wanted to sweep outside," she said. He looked at her a long time, then shook his head. "Don't try that again. Some doors don't open twice." His warning wasn't harsh, it was sad. Kemi waited until nightfall to try a new plan. She tiptoed to the garage and found Chuka's car unlocked. She slipped inside and lay flat across the back seat. 10 minutes passed, 20. Then headlights flicked on. A key turned. Chuka entered the car. Kemi's heart pounded so loud she was sure he'd hear it. But just before pulling out of the driveway, Chuka muttered, "Come out, before they see you." Kemi sat up slowly. His face in the rear view was expressionless. You want to die? No, she whispered. Then stop moving like someone who wants to. She climbed out, humiliated and shaken. He said nothing more. The next morning, Madame handed her a white envelope. Your pay, she said. You've done well. Kemi opened it later in her room. Inside, N50 000 in crisp notes, and a note scribbled in the corner. Run when the fridge is empty. Her fingers trembled. Her heart caught fire. There was still a way out. But it would cost her everything. The next few days were a blur of dread and quiet calculation. Kemi tracked every package, every meal. She noticed Madame Remy's mood darken when the special meat began to run low. The fridge was opened less, the portions smaller. And then, one morning, the fridge stayed shut. Kemi didn't ask questions. She served toast and pap. Madame barely touched her food. By midday, Chief Adebami shouted from upstairs, his voice low but angry. It was the first time Kemi had heard him raise it. Something was off. That night, she found Chuka in the garage, loading empty boxes into the car. Their eyes met. Is it time? She whispered. He didn't answer, just opened the back door of the car and walked away. Kemi slid inside. This time, no fear, just adrenaline. She curled under a blanket behind the seats, every breath shallow, her fingers clenched around the note. They drove. Out of the gates, past the Lekki Bridge toll, into the noise and life of Lagos. Traffic honks, street hawkers, freedom. Then they stopped. She heard Chuka slam his door, a moment of silence. Kemi peeked out. They were near CMS at a small market roadside. Now, she pushed the door open, jumped out and ran, barefoot through puddles, across shouting vendors, into a crowd that didn't care who she was. She didn't look back. 10 minutes later, she burst into a dusty police outpost, crying, breathless. I have something to report, she said. You won't believe me, but I need you to listen. The officers exchanged glances. And when she pulled the note from her pocket, hands still shaking, they did. The officers at the CMS police outpost stared at Kemi like she was mad, until one of them read the note, until she described the house, the fridge, the finger. Then silence fell. Within hours, she was taken to a safe house, bare mattress, no windows, guarded by plainclothes officers. Still, it was the safest she'd felt in days. The Lagos Criminal Intelligence Unit got involved. They surveilled the Adebami mansion, traced meat shipments, and questioned staff from the so-called delivery agency. Files disappeared, names went cold. But slowly a pattern emerged. Missing girls, paid-off reports, and one last chilling discovery. Remnants of DNA in the house freezer, matched to a woman declared missing in Ogun State. It wasn't just about Kemi anymore. She had cracked open something bigger. The news broke quietly at first, a short article on an obscure blog. But then a whistleblower leaked photos and Lagos exploded. Elite Lagos couple linked to human meat ring, one headline screamed. Kemi didn't sleep. She watched the coverage from a cracked TV in a detective's office. Chief Adebami was arrested at his office in Victoria Island. Madame Remy tried to flee, caught at Murtala Mohammed Airport, wearing a wig and sunglasses. They didn't fight it. They didn't cry. They just smiled. Like they knew something no one else did. Kemi gave her full testimony. The press asked for her name. She refused. They don't need my name, she said. They need the truth. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a witness. And finally, the shadows were no longer winning. The trial began, quietly closed court. No cameras, just names and evidence. But word had spread, and outside the courthouse, Lagos buzzed like a hive struck open. Chief Tayo Adebami sat calm in the dock, expression blank. Madame Remy wore white every day, her signature calm intact, as if the truth couldn't touch her. But it did. DNA reports on delivery logs, testimonies from missing persons' families, and Kemi's handwritten note entered as Exhibit A. The court heard of meat sourced through human trafficking organs, sold to high-paying clients under the guise of wellness treatments. The Adabamis weren't just murderers, they were curators of a market no one dared imagine. The judge called it evil masked by elegance. When the verdict was read life imprisonment without parole, Kemi didn't cheer. She just exhaled for the first time in weeks. Later, she returned to Ogun State. The safe house gave her a stipend, and a local NGO helped her enroll in school. She never gave interviews, never posted her story, but she did write, pages and pages of it. Not for the world, but for herself. Sometimes, she still woke up hearing the fridge door slam, or smelling that metallic sweetness that never truly leaves. But then she'd breathe in clean air, feel the sun on her skin, and remind herself she survived. Not because she was lucky, but because she was brave.